Well, I want to say thank you for being here. I know you guys have probably other things to do with your life, but I hope that what we share today will give some meaning to you, give you some direction, and will let you know, there are people at Ogden City that care and they want to help you and help you understand things and help you progress. And so we're really excited to be here. My name's Joe Simpson, and I've been with Ogden City Planning for 18 plus years now. So it's been a wonderful place to begin and still go, and I think I'll just go till I stop going. And so the concept review team meeting, it's always been there, but it has morphed over time. I would say, to describe who we are, I'd say first of all and foremost, we're a team. And we're a team that's made up of various professions. And so we like to jab each other a little bit. We come from, no, don't look at me like that. But we all kind of have different emphasis when it comes to development, different things that we're doing, that we've studied and that we can say we're professional, I guess. At least everyone else is but me. I want to start with planning. And I put this as the start because we kind of are where everyone starts. They start with planning because what we focus on primarily is pre-approvals, reviews, and inspections. And there's quite a bit that we touch. I think we can annoy the other members of our team because they're like, planning always wants to touch it and be part of it and do something with it. But I would say it's kind of the glue that holds a lot of this stuff together when it comes to development. So our main focuses are here really looking at land use. What is the use I can do on this property? And ultimately that's like where you start, right? It's like, I have a cupcake business and can I do it here? Well, maybe, let's find out. We look at the zoning, we look at the codes, we look at what could be done. And so with that, we also look at different codes that regulate site design. And so that'd be something you want to be thinking about. If you're looking at locating someplace, do I have a big enough piece of land to do what I want to do on it? Do I have the parking I need to support the customers that are coming to my business? What about, dumpsters and lighting and delivery areas and things that could potentially affect neighboring properties? These are things we look at site design and then building design. So if I was an engineer, I would look at a building that's going to last forever, that may withstand bombs but not care so much really what it looks like. Maybe it's just saying. But that's where kind of planning fulfills that role in the city. Is we're looking at design standards, making sure we're having buildings that integrate well with our communities. We look at historical areas, and so that's part of some of the approval bodies like Landmarks Commission, Planning Commission, City Council, the mayor, variances. So we kind of touch a lot of aspects when it comes to development. And so these are just some things, and as mentioned, we are going to have a Q&A at the end. So if you got questions about some of this, hopefully this is intended to jar some things loose in your mind and maybe that we can discuss and help you get started. This is engineering. So engineering looks at things like permits, reviews, inspections. So they're very heavily involved, but they've really got, I would say, really two main focuses, and those are dealing with public utilities and the public right-of-way. So what is that? They are really into cool things like water and sewer lines and fats and oil grease separations. These are stormwater pollution prevention, traffic, sidewalk, street design. They also are heavily involved with subdivisions, encroachment permits, easements. So these things are essential, that we have to have. I could make it look good all day, but if it doesn't function right, if you can't flush your toilet at the end of the day, we're going to have problems. So they're kind of the brains, in that aspect, as far as, making these technical details with development are occurring properly. And then we have our building folks, and they are focused on mainly permits, reviews, and inspections. And when you think of building, I want you to be thinking of contractors and building codes and fire codes. And so they're going to be dealing mainly with the building code is really mainly where they live. And those would look at, unlike engineering, private utilities. So what's being built on the private land, plumbing, electrical, HVAC. They love to talk about geologic hazard studies and things of that nature. All important stuff. Also involved with possible demolitions or hazardous buildings. It's important if we have a building that's not safe, we have those expertise that we can rely on to help make sure we have good, safe buildings. And then another thing that you want to be thinking about with your business is persons with disabilities. So the Americans with Disabilities Act has protection for those who need to get access via parking, getting inside the building to patron your business, be able to use the restrooms in those business. So these are things that are important. A lot of people don't think about, but it's very important. And then we got our fire marshal. Unfortunately, our fire marshal has been pretty busy lately, and we've had fires been an issue in the city, and so we rely on our fire marshal to help when plants come in to make sure those buildings, they aren't going to spread to other buildings, they're safe. So they'll look at ways they can put out those fires, like fire hydrants, but they also look at access, and it's not necessarily just fire. This is also emergency. Someone has a heart attack in the building. Can they get in there and to your property and be able to take care of the situation? Fire lanes, suppression systems, and they're also involved with inspections. So they kind of focus more on reviews and inspections very heavily. And so when you have a business, a lot of time you'll see someone from fire come, they're going to check your smoke detectors or your fire extinguishers. So they're a part of this team, this concept review team. And then our final group is licensing. And this is what everyone wants at the end of the day. You start with planning, but at the end of the day, you want that business license to be able to start running your business. And so business licensing really kind of, they do license reviews, and they also will do inspections on businesses, make sure everything's running right. But they focus on mainly commercial. They break it up into commercial business licenses. So these could be commercial uses, industrial, and they're very heavily involved with if you into food, alcohol. So they'd be working heavily with getting your tax set up with the state, the health department, and so they play a role in bridging that gap. And then rental licenses. Some of you may be into that, where you're building rental properties. And so they look at licensing for apartments, even single family homes. If you're renting a single family home, you could get a license for that. ADUs, short-term rentals, so like Airbnbs, VRBOs, and group homes. And then they also get to enjoy some of these other interesting businesses like sidewalk, food carts, food trucks, also events and home occupations where you could actually run a small business from your home and certain criteria being met there. So that's the end goal. That's where we want to get. So I would say those are the four major roles. So we have the city has this team, but where does it start with you? For you, I'm sure a lot of you here have had ideas or have an idea, of what you want to do. Where do I begin? And I'd say in the number of years I've been with the city, I always find it interesting. the people that come in and start a business, I hear some of the most interesting concepts and the most interesting ideas. And I think that's the funnest part, is like be able to interact with those people, with you people, and be able to talk about it and go, oh, that's a really cool idea. And so let's talk about it. What can we do to make that idea go further? Make your dream happen. Your vision, I would say. And so really, you got to develop this vision for your project. And what I'd say you really need to start to do is ponder these two questions. What am I doing? What am I trying to do? And sometimes you may say, well, I need to do this, so I'm going to go in the city and talk about this. But let's look at, what is the whole thing you're trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish, so we can make sure we get all those little aspects taken care of? What is the end goal, and where do I want to do it? And so when you come see the city, this is really important. A lot of times people will ask, but it's like the where is very important, almost as important. It's equally important as the what. So I'm going to explain that. And these are really kind of the two questions you're going to want to look into as you prepare for a meeting with the concept review team. So let's get into the what. Some things you want to be thinking about, and oftentimes, I don't know where you guys are probably all at different stages. You may have businesses or looking at building businesses, may be in various parts of the process. But the first thing you want to that'll really help you go far with your business is to look at what was there. Because a lot of times what was there can help you with what you can do on the property. And so you want to look at what you have there on the site. So look at previous uses. Are there buildings on the site? What kind of condition are those in? Do I have parking? Do I have signage? Do I have landscaping? Do I have a place to put a dumpster? No one likes to talk about trash, but everyone needs it pretty much for their business. Utilities, exterior lighting, fencing, these are all these kind of things that may need to be done as you develop a site. And so if an existing property you're looking at is maybe lacking in some of these things, you may have to anticipate, I may have to develop some of that. And then that can get more complicated if you're going to lease versus buy a property, and you want to negotiate those things as you're moving forward. So the next question that I would say you need to ask is, what are the new uses that you want to do on the property? Are you going to be selling things? Are you going to be storing things? Are you going to be building things? Are you going to be cooking things? These are the kind of questions we need to know. Are you going to have lots of employees there? Are you going to have lots of patrons come into the business? These are all the kind of things that you want to look at. And the best thing to do, and this is, I try to find a real basic one, but this corner kind of shows like you're looking down on the property from the sky, and really look at your space, inside and outside. And how am I going to use each of those individual spaces? Exterior, I'm going to be looking at, where am I going to have my parking? Where are all my deliveries going to happen? Where is my garbage going to be picked up? Are there power lines in the way? There's all these kind of factors that you have to weigh out. Where's my entrance? How are people coming in and out of the building? Do I have a drive-through? Is that going to affect how people come inside my building? So what I would look at is identifying on a rough sketch how you see all those spaces outside and inside the building being used, because that'll help us to be able to help you, figure out how that could flesh out and move forward. The other thing you want to look at is sometimes some buildings, it's just great when businesses are able to get into a building. It's like turn the key, right? Plug and play. Everything's there. I don't need to do much. But you may say, well, everything's almost right, but I need to move that there and take out that wall, and I need to add a sink there, and I need to, and so those are important for the city to know, our concept review team to know, what are you going to change inside, outside of the building to work for your business, so we can talk about that. And then the one thing that I think people coming in with a business, especially if it's their first business, they're very excited, and they're like, oh, I can't wait, I know this can be great, and there's almost like this honeymoon period, but it's important to be thinking of possible impacts your business could create. So it's important from a planning perspective, and what a lot of our codes are written for is what's around you and what could you be doing that could impact your neighbors. So if you have homes, residential uses, things of that nature, how could you impact it? So be thinking, well, yeah, that would work perfect for my dumpster right there, but how will that impact my neighbor? Or I have deliveries at 3 a.m., but there's a home right there. That may not work out too well. So these are things that you want to be looking at. So think noise, think lights, think odor, think traffic, and think views, is what I would say. The where. We got some great tools. Back when I first started planning, we didn't have access to a lot of the technology we have today. So I guess that means I'm getting old. But we have several tools that as a city we use that are open to the public. The county, Weber County, actually has some great services they provide on their website. I don't think there's a day go by that I don't use this tool called GeoGizmo. It's something I would strongly encourage you to look at. It can tell you quite a bit about the property. You may be looking at buying a property and you go there and you get all kinds of information like the tax history. Oh, that might be good to know. It's to put into your business model and your expenses. But it also can tell you about your property, like how big it is. Roughly, where are my property lines? Now, that's a can of worms I don't want to open, but it can help you figure out about how big your property is, where those lines are. You would have to hire a surveyor to find those things out, but at least give you ideas. Sometimes properties are being sold and there are multiple parcels, and could that be impactful if you're going to build a building? You can't have a building cross property lines, so you may need to combine those, and there's a process for doing that. So this tool is really helpful when you find the where. We also have maps on the city page under planning. Some people want to go and dive into that, explore until they get stuck, and then they call planning. That's great, we can do it that way. So that leads right into, where do I start with the city? Oh man, I have all these ideas and now I have to go talk to the city. This is dreading. I don't want to do that. I should just be able to do what I want, not go talk to the city about having to do anything. But eventually you have to figure things out and get approvals to do certain things. So I'd say the rule of thumb is, if you doubt where to start with planning. Not just because I'm a planner, but as you can see when you look at this, when we look at the previous slide, knowing whether you can do a business at that location, I would say, would trump whether do I have enough sewer or something along that for that property. You may disagree, Taylor, our engineers here. See, we got to jab each other. It's just what we do. But I will say we do have a great planning team, and we want to help as much as we can. It's one of our goals, our vision is to help our customers, help our citizens, all of you, and it's what we get paid to do. And so come see us. I'd say if you don't know, and we're kind of entwined with all these other different team members, if we don't know the exact answer, we can usually get you to the right person. And so how do you do that? Come see us at City Hall. We have on the second floor of the municipal building, what we call a development services counter, and it has different staff there that we try and keep staffed Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 p.m. You can just stop by and we will help you out with the property, look it up, walk you through it. You're also welcome to call us, email us, and we can email you back if you want to do it that way. I have our contact information here. Or if you wanted to have more of a discussion and give us some information where we can maybe sit down and have a meeting with you, make an appointment. We're happy to do that too, where we can spend a little extra more time with you and discuss your project. So when you sit down with planning, what are you going to do? We're going to try and get you oriented in the right direction. I think that's probably the biggest role planning plays, is we try and point the ship in the right direction and get you to where you can have success. So big questions. Is it allowed at this location? Can I put my cupcake shop here? Can I put my car sales business here? These, you would talk to planning, and we could definitely help you with that. That's what we do. We look at the zoning, we look at, all these various factors and let you know how you could move forward. Sometimes things are permitted uses, sometimes they're conditional, which will require you to go to a commission to talk about it, and they have to find maybe some things that have to be done for you to have that use there. You may have a building that is on the historic register and you want to do some exterior changes to that building. We need to talk to the Landmarks Commission and get those approvals. So one thing that I love when I interact with people when they come in and just talk to planning is talking about options. So you may not be able to do exactly what you're thinking, but let's think of there's some other ways. And that goes back to that first question. What is the whole vision? What exactly do you want to do? We know that a planner's going to knock their head around to see if we can find a way to make your vision come true. And so we can look at options. What are the steps? You could have to go to Planning Commission. You may need to go get some special approval from UDOT or some other agency. And so we would lay that out, and we could lay out steps as far as, that could help it go quicker, or, that may work at your pace as far as what you need for your project. How long will it take? That's what everyone wants to know, and that depends on what we got to do. So we got to figure that out. And do you have all the information the city can provide? So again, if planning's not able to answer all your questions, we can get you to the right people and get you answers to your questions. Well, you started with planning, but what if when we talk, we find that there's a lot more involved with your project. What started out what we thought maybe just kind of simple and small may turn into a little bit more complicated, where we might need to have some more discussion rather than farming you out to go talk to engineering about this, and go talk to fire about this, and go talk to licensing about this. We don't want to do that. We don't want to give you a runaround. You're trying to get something done, and we want to help you get it done. And so if there's multiple departments required, if what you're working on is really complex or large scale, or you just want to work on narrowing down some options, going through the pros and cons, I would say it's at that point we need to schedule a CRT meeting or concept review team meeting. So let's meet with the whole team. So I just want to kind of talk about what is the CRT. They don't cost anything, they're free, so complimentary. And they're really designed for anybody, but just developers, property owners, contractors, and businesses preparing for future projects. Like, that's what we've set this up for. One thing that we need to point out is these meetings, they are conceptual only. So we're not going to give any approvals in these meetings, but the idea is we're going to get you in the right direction. We're going to tell you your options, things that could be done, explain codes, explain process. And that's where you really are, it's going to get you on the right plan, because more than likely you're going to need to, especially for a bigger project or things that were going to require a lot of changes, you're going to probably have to employ some design professionals that are actually licensed, that can design plans for you for new buildings or new utilities or things of that nature. And so we need to see those plans to be able to give approvals and do the reviews, and those are done through applications. So when are they held? We hold them weekly, and we try to be efficient with our time, to be efficient with your time. So we do them every Wednesday morning, unless there's a holiday. We're not going to come on Christmas Eve, sorry. But we will do every Wednesday morning. We book it up for 30-minute time slots. We'll go from 9, 9:30, and 10. And we basically just say whoever comes first, we're going to book you on one of those meetings. So it's a first come, first serve kind of a thing. And we do hold them at the city building on the 3rd floor of where the city council meets, in their workroom, not the main chambers, but their workroom. And so we're there in person, but we also have a Zoom option. So we've experienced a lot of times where you may have a design professional, but they may not be local, or they're going to charge you money to come into the city and meet. They can hop on Zoom. If that will save you some money, do it. Or if you aren't able to come in, or you're going to be out of town, you can use the Zoom meeting. And again, the cost is free, so check that out. So how do you schedule it? So as we kind of talked about in that visioning process and developing your project, you're going to want to sketch out those plans and prepare that information, answer those questions, think of all the things we need to discuss. And once you have that, then you're going to email that information into the planning department. So start with us. We just so happen to be the ones that schedule the meetings and set those up. So you can email those directly into us. You just include the property information. Sometimes people are like, I want to get on the CRT to talk about a restaurant, and can I do this? And it's like, okay, where is it at? That's very important. So yeah, property information and some plans. And then what we'll do is send you a confirmation that'll have that Zoom meeting link, the location, and all the details from that point. So that's really the booking of it. And then we look at what happens after the CRT. So and this is really unique for Ogden from what we're discovering, is we're going to put together a summary sheet of that meeting for you. And that summary sheet's going to include basically some basic information, what we talked about, but it's also going to include steps, contact information for everyone on the team, emails, phone numbers. It's going to include links to code, links to application, more information than you probably want to hear about. But we try and send all the relevant information to you so you can have that. We also, using Zoom, we record these meetings, and we're going to send you a link to that recording so you can watch it and reference it if you want to later on. So that's really what you're going to expect. So what is the next step after that? Once you've got your plans figured out and your information, our hope is that we're going to see an application come in from you that's going to be more well polished and will go quicker for us, quicker for you, to help you get through the process, because we've been able to meet with our concept review team and discuss a lot of these things that, just in my years of experience, all these things we've talked about in one way or another has impacted a project, and just having some early discussion goes a long ways. So just in a diagram, to lay it all out, just process-wise, what you're looking at, start with developing your project, defining what that is, put together your questions and your plans, talk to planning, start with us. And then we can see if we need to get you to a CRT meeting. If you do, we can schedule it, get you there, then submit your application, go through the review, obtain your permits, start construction, get inspected, and then get your license. That's really it in a nutshell. So I also there's a QR code here, but point you to a website we have for the concept review team meeting. It kind of has a summary of what I've gone through just now, but we hope to see you there. We hope that you come and we can talk through projects. Ogden's an awesome place that's growing, and we're seeing a ton of interest with developments, a ton of interest in new businesses, and it's exciting. This has been the most energetic time of Ogden's history since I've been here, and it's been awesome. And so we'd love to have you be part of that and have you use this concept review team. That's it.